Mr. Curran, okay, you have just confirmed that the recording has been started. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
It is 9:02 a.m. I'd like to call this meeting of the WIFA Board to order with a roll call for members' attendance. And I will take roll. David Beckham.
Present.
Ted Cook.
Here.
Buchanan Davis. Present. Patrice Horseman.
Present.
Drew John.
Here.
Tim Tamir.
Here.
Pete Kim.
Here.
It actually says on my thing, Pete Lyons. I have not formally adopted Pete. And Jonathan Lyons. Quorum is confirmed. I will now call on the non-voting members. Elizabeth Alvarado Thorson. Tom Bushatsky. Gail Griffin.
Here by Zoom.
Thank you, Gail. Lauren Kuby. Karen Peters.
Here.
Robin Said. TJ Shope. Stephanie Stahl Hamilton.
Present.
And Sandra Watson. Thank you. Roll call is complete. For the board members, please remember to identify yourself when making a motion or requesting to speak. Please ensure you are muted for any votes, unmuted for any votes. And for those in the room, please remember to leave the microphones on the table for sound quality purposes. In addition, if any board member wishes to depart the meeting at any time, please announce your departure for our recorded meeting minutes. We're going to go to agenda item number 2, conflicts of interest. Joe, have you received any conflict notices?
Morning, Joseph Kelly, General Counsel. No disclosures have been submitted for today's meeting.
All right. At this time, are there any members that would like to identify and disclose any conflict for any item on today's agenda, or you may do so at the time that the item is brought before us? All right, hearing none, we'll go to agenda item number 3. Director McGuire will lead the discussion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and appreciate board members for joining us today. Also, thanks for letting us make some agenda adjustments. I know we moved a committee, we changed the committee. Appreciate you hanging in there with us. So hopefully we get you out in a timely fashion today. Just a couple of things I wanted to highlight from the director's desk. First of all, WIFA submitted its annual budget request to the governor at the beginning of this month. This is something that all state agencies are required to do. These are the budget requests that she uses to shape the contours of her executive budget proposal, which will be released in January. Consistent with the strategic framework that you all approved, we asked for an additional $25 million in the Water Conservation Grant Fund and an affirmative ask of $0 for the Long-Term Water Augmentation Fund. That's the second year we've done that, just to confirm that we do want to be kept whole, or at least as whole as we can be in that. So looking forward to those discussions and seeing where the budget year takes us. Last thing I will highlight is that our friends at the Nature Conservancy, Audubon Southwest, and the Verde River Sustaining Flows Council are putting together a really cool tour of WIFA projects in the Verde Valley. And that's going to include projects like the Yavapai Apache Nation's Water Reclamation Facility, the Camp Verde Sports Complex, which we sponsored some metering and treatment for, and Clarkdale's Water Campus. And the town of Clarkdale actually has 2 WIFA conservation grants. So it's going to be a really good excuse to go up to the Verde Valley at the perfect time of year to go to the Verde Valley. The tour targets legislators, but given the content, the hosts would really, really love participation from WIFA leadership, the board, the Water Conservation Grant Committee. So if you're willing and able to join us on Friday, October 4th, please see Ben or Judah. They will tell you how to RSVP. They'll give you all the information. And I'm saving the best for last. The tour includes lunch at a vineyard. So, you know, great work trip if you're willing to do that. So October 4th, Verde Valley Water Projects Tour. Find us if you are interested in participating. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
I was looking for oohs and ahs.
I know. I thought there'd be a bigger response there.
I've already RSVP'd. I saw the wine and the.
Just a clarification, so I think in the email, it was said that it was the 24th.
I'm
but
sorry, that
it's-
is correct.
Is it the
Yep,
4th
it
or
is-
the 24th?
It is the 24th.
Oh.
Yep.
Oh,
My
good.
notes were wrong.
I can make it then.
Okay.
There we go.
All right. Thank you very much. We're going to go to agenda item number 4, consideration of amendment to WIFA policy from Board of Directors and Committee, and the establishment of a finance committee, and Director McGuire will lead that discussion.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So Board members, at the last meeting, you directed staff to develop a framework for creating a finance subcommittee. In your board books, you'll see this framework in the form of a proposed amendment to our board and committee policy. That was the most logical place to establish a new committee because it governs our existing subcommittees that we have pursuant to statute. Ben, if you can go to the next slide. As it's presented to you here, the finance subcommittee would be a 3-person group. It would be appointed at removed entirely at the pleasure of the chairman or the discretion of the chairman. The committee does not have authority to act on the board's behalf. Instead, like most of our subcommittees, it will make recommendations for action to the board on any of the matters that are presented to it. I anticipate that a committee like this would probably meet quarterly, but to give us flexibility, we didn't restrict it to that or require it to do that. So we would like this to be pretty ad hoc, meeting as necessary, meeting as things come before it. And finally, the policy also tried to assign jurisdiction to this committee to kind of a discrete list of categories. So the committee would discuss and make recommendations on debt issuance. So anytime WIFA is considering issuing debt, the committee would first discuss and make a recommendation. Financial policies that relate to WIFA's financial stability, and then any other issue that this board refers to that committee by a majority vote. I expressed this to a few of you, but in crafting this committee and the boundaries of it, I wanted to be very careful. We are a finance authority, so every decision we make is inherently financial. And it was pretty critical that we ensure this is not a delegation of the board's authority or the board's discretion, but instead an enhancement of that. So the amendment before you, I think, attempts to strike that balance, but I am definitely looking forward to any thoughts or feedback that you might have. If you do want to look directly at the language of the amendment, it is in your board book, but we can also pull it up on the screen if we need to do or want to do some in-time or real-time edits to that. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I am happy to turn it back over to you for questions.
All right, and I'm looking for comment right now from the board.
Tim has his hand up as well.
Okay,
Yeah,
we're good. David first and then Tim.
So I have a question first and then I'll have comments. So first one's to Joe. Does this absolutely have to be public meetings and all that? He's taking my mic and then I get it back though.
You
from-
can't. Hi, Justin Telly, General Counsel. It depends on the subject matter of what you're assigning to the committee. So if the committee is going to be making formal recommendations to the board in any capacity or directing staff to take any sort of action, the best practice for that would be to fall into the open meetings practice like your other subcommittees. If it is merely advisory and informing people of reports, similar to how board members may receive reports from staff in a one-on-one capacity, would not be subject to an open meeting requirement.
Okay, so again, this is something Pete brought up. I know, Pete, you can hear me. My thought though was that it was really one or two or folks, maybe 3, I suppose, who just were working with Denise more in depth, going to her office and trying to really understand more detail and depth. And not something where we stand up in front of a bunch of public trying to be formal about it. And I'm not sure it really accomplishes the purpose, at least that I was thinking of. Now I'm speaking just for myself. I'm wondering, I question again to Joe, can a couple of us go to Denise's office and meet with her and say, hey, we'd like to spend an hour or two and work through things? Or does that have to be open to the public, even if we just go see her and try to understand?
Joseph Telly, General Counsel. I have my own mic now. But yeah, the board is certainly entitled to have communications with staff about the day-to-day business of WIFA and get updates and reports on that. You will want to balance that, of course, with the purpose of the open meetings laws in general, which is to inform the public. So any sort of legal action or policy or conversation that comes out of individual meetings with staff would then be reiterated.
Well, wait, you said legal action policy. I get that. Then you said conversation. So if we just go talk to her, is that?
No, I don't mean to say every conversation that any board member has with any member of staff is a public meeting. No,
Yeah.
The conversations supporting that legal action, that would be things that you would want to reiterate in an open meeting setting. Again, the purpose of open meeting laws is so that the public can be informed of what you're doing. So, prohibited actions would be to go have conversations amongst staff, come before an open meeting, have no conversation whatsoever about an item, and then simply pass that. That would
Okay,
be
well, we
something-
could go see Denise and then come back here and say, hey, when I met with Denise, I learned this,
Absolutely.
that, and the other thing. And then for the board to consider it. Or we could do a written report to the board in advance that the public sees and say, hey, we learned X, Y, and Z by meeting with Denise.
Certainly, information can be provided publicly in the forms of reports and things like that. The one thing you'll have to worry about offline will be any sort of quorum violations. You can't have a quorum of the board meeting to discuss any potential action. So, but if
well-
it's a smaller subset, that would not violate open meeting.
Being limited to how many?
If a 9-member board, it would be 5.
Okay, so I know Ted had something and he's got his hand up, but you can tell where I'm headed. That
We're gonna-
this is not where I would thought we were headed with this.
Tim, then Pete, then Ted. And then Patrice. Lots of board input. Wonderful. All right, Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So 2 comments. One, following up with board member Beckham's comments. If we end up not having a finance subcommittee because we have individual board members that go have individual conversations for understanding, I'm good with that. If we end up with a finance subcommittee, I like the chair having the discretion to appoint the committee. But what I would add to it is we do have a position on the board called treasurer. And that could be something to be considered as if there's a finance subcommittee, the treasurer of the board being the chair of that finance subcommittee by right or, by direct appointment, I think would be a reasonable thing to do. Otherwise, the treasurer not being involved in the finance subcommittee seems out of sync for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Pete.
Yep. So I think that this is actually a very interesting exercise in kind of the merging of the public and private aspects of what we do. I was the one that brought up this idea in the first place, and my intention on this was really to address kind of this nagging feeling that I had that we weren't really doing justice to the nuances and the importance of certain financial decisions. But like, finance can be a very complex topic. It's got a lot of jargon in it and could bore people to tears. And if you let it, it could take up the entire meeting, which would crowd out other very important topics that we also needed to get to. So this is why I was trying to find some mechanism for this to just get a little bit more, and by this I mean the finance aspects, to get a little bit more thought and a little bit more discussion. I will admit that I was not expecting the kind of this intersection to cause a public meeting requirement on this. And so I do also tend to instinctively agree with Mr. Beckham's comments around sort of the maybe the desirability of a bit less formality around this. On the other hand, I do note in passing that both of these, we can do both. We can have conversations and we can have a finance subcommittee if the board deems that to be something that it wants to do. They're not mutually exclusive. That being said, I do think that this is a healthy thing as we kind of move forward and explore the different avenues that are available to us in order to do great work here and to continue to do so. Thank you. That's my comments.
Thank you, Pete. Ted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I agree in large part with everything that's been said so far. The rub is in getting that all to work the way that we would like to, and also smoothly and transparently. I think like Mr. Kim just said, that this committee, if we go forward with one, could include both things that we've discussed, the both being these informal, understanding, conceptual discussions that might be had between various board members who are members of the committee or not, and the staff. And it's more formal things, some of which are listed up here on the board. It's some combination of that. And I'll get more to the rub in a minute. My view of the role of the committee would be maybe a little bit different than what's up here. That would necessarily include some involvement, some formal involvement in things that are already done at the board level, such as presentations of budgets, financial estimates and projections, financial performance, and things like that. And the reason for that is not to necessarily get it off the board's agenda in some way, or do that, but is to have, for those committee members, have a basic understanding of the way that those things work. So that when the big questions come up, such as issuing debt or coming up with a new financial policy, we will have we have a better understanding of the way that those potential policies would impact the finances of WIFA. So all of that being said, here's where the rub is, and this is from my long experience as a person working at a public agency under the open meeting law. If there is a committee to include the secretary, or I'm sorry, the treasurer or not, as the case may be, that is established by this board, the presumption will be that when they meet, or any quorum thereof meets, that it will be for the purposes of official business of WIFA. And so to try and have some dividing line and say, this is official business and we're going to have an open meeting, and this is not and we're not, doesn't work in real life, because where a lot of agencies end up is we're going to announce a quorum of the committee because a quorum is meeting, even if it's a cocktail party, just in case, to avoid any kind of attribution of trying to circumvent or skirt the open meeting law. And so even though we might want to have these informal discussions, and there will be some of them probably, trying to have that line and say this falls on one side of it and this falls on the other side of it is very difficult to do in practice.
Thank you, Ted. Patrice?
And I also agree with everything that's being said. You know, there already is an informal process for discussion if there needs to be more discussion with regards to finance. And I don't think we need to improve on that. It's there, it already exists. And then I also have to say that certainly finance is not my background, but it is many of your background. And I learn a tremendous amount from the discussion. I'm not bored to tears. You know, when I listened to Pete Kim, I learned something from Pete Kim. So I really think that it is important for the full board, not just for the public, to hear our discussion, but quite frankly, it's important for the full board to have that discussion. So, and I also see big problems with the open meeting law, something I used to do a lot with boards, and would be very concerned to have a formal process like this if we did not follow the open meeting law. And then it really kind of circumvents what are we really doing here, and what is our role as a board? Because of course, most of what we do happens to be finance. And so I'm not sure we need this process. I think there is an informal process that works. And I am not bored to tears by the discussion. In fact, I really enjoy the discussion and certainly learn from my colleagues' vast experience in this area. So I really enjoy being part of that discussion.
Thank you very much, Patrice. David?
Okay, I'm not sure where that leads us. It sounds to me that even if we have an official subcommittee, we can also still meet with Denise and say, Denise, you know something, I need to understand this, the Excel spreadsheet, and I want to see the Excel so I can know what numbers are going, what formulas are working where, really understand things. That's what I'm talking about. And that's very micro, and I realize it's more than that, but it could be to that detail. And that you're never going to do that in a public meeting, I wouldn't think. Let's get our computers out and work on the spreadsheets. So it sounds to me like, I don't know what we're accomplishing by our official subcommittee is where I'm headed. Could our board, Joe, can our board say to a couple people, let's say it's Pete and one other, hey, you know something, you're the guys to go figure things out with Denise in more detail and come back to the board. Or can our chair designate a couple of people just to be point people?
Question to designate them to be point people to communicate with staff before bringing items to the board.
Yeah, just
for
to say, hey,
legal
go
action.
meet with Denise and really understand this of the board so you can give it to the board in your own language.
Yeah, I think that that's something that the board could certainly could certainly do. Any legal action that comes of that, of course, is going to happen in an open
Yeah,
meeting.
for sure.
Followed by sufficient conversations, but
Right.
it's, as a lot of you have already mentioned, it's no different than any one of you picking up the phone essentially and saying, I would also like to have this information. It just would be an action from the board right now, designating a few people to perhaps get routine updates from Denise and provide some input pre-meeting, which would then come and be part of the open meeting.
Thank you, David. Thanks, Joe.
I'm done.
Okay, Pete?
Yeah, I think that this entire conversation has been very illuminating. Though I'm the person that initially asked for the proposal, I'm actually leaning in the other direction at the moment. It's given the fact that this would create a little bit too much structure on some levels, and that we have the ability to kind of exercise some discretion in terms of meeting with staff without triggering, all the various open meeting laws and things like that. I'm not sure there's something to be fixed here. So I'm actually leaning in the other direction, and let's see how it goes in the absence of something like this. And if we need to fix it later, we always can.
Sounds good. Any additional comments? Okay, we do have an item, so we can vote to oppose it or we can vote to institute it.
This
For
is
the
Pete Clem.
establishment. Go ahead, Pete.
Yeah, I move actually to table this for now, and so that we will continue to operate on an informal basis. And if it becomes necessary in the future to do something like this, we always can. But for now, I move to remove this motion from the table.
This is
Second.
second.
We have a second and tertiary. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you for the great discussion. All right, agenda item number 5. Denise.
Thank you. So this item is, and if you just back up a little bit, if you remember when we did the budget, I indicated that we were working with the governor's office to see if there was a possibility of having additional cost associated with our conservation program reimbursed. So we have been in the process, we've talked to the governor's office, and so now we are coming to the board asking for an increase on the amount of money that we're hitting the Water Conservation Grant Fund. The initial request was 3.5% of $14.6 million additional conservation grant monies, and that amounted to about a $511,000 budget for our admin cost. During fiscal year 2025, we spent $120,000. We are now requesting an additional $219,000. When you look at this total amount, it's $730,000, and you look at the total conservation program, this is 0.3% of that program. So this is a very small amount of administrative cost to fully support all of the projects, the disbursements, the review of the grants, making sure everything's in compliance, and also making sure that we can get this done in a timely manner. So what we're asking for is an additional $219,000 for admin cost.
Thank you, Denise. Are there any questions from the board? All right, I'd entertain a motion for resolution 2026-017.
David Beckham, I move to approve resolution 2026-017.
Thank you, David. Do we have a second? Second. Ted. Okay. Any additional board member discussion? No further discussion. We'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? If none, motion passes. Thank you very much. Agenda item number 6, we're going to go to Lindsay. Consideration of grant resolution addendum A 2026-018, City of Surprise.
Thank you. So we have the City of Surprise, who is a water conservation grant recipient. They have requested modification to the scope and budget of their turf removal project funded through the Water Conservation Program. If the board grants this modification request, staff does believe that the resolution addendum would be appropriate to clarify the scope of work allowable under the revised grant amount. So originally, the grant amount was just over $280,000 or $229,000 in cost for grant with a $57,000 match. They are requesting to reduce that grant amount to be $64,035 with a match of $21,345. Because of a reduction of scope that they're proposing, they originally planned to replace just over 3.5 acres of non-functional turf across 3 different public parks within the city of Surprise. They are now requesting to reduce that scope to just focus on one of the 3 parks and the turf removal at that park. We did include in the staff analysis the original water savings for this proposal, 14 acre feet for all 3 parks, which is now reduced to just about 3 acre feet for the 1 park. We do have the grantees representative, Ian Campbell, available to answer any questions that the board may have. And that's all I have for you.
Thank you very much, Lindsay. Do we have any questions from the board?
I have one.
David?
What happened? Why the reduction? Why not all 3 parks?
Like to hear from the grantee
Yeah,
on that?
sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we should have Ian online.
Go ahead and raise your hand, Ian, if you're online. Not seeing you.
And I will know, hopefully we can get Ian online, but this is a grantee that had not been spending money on their grant. And we did provide them a letter of notice of breach that they need to kind of start spending money and preferring the grant as proposed. And this was their response to that notice of breach. So I do believe they're just,
I think we know what happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
if that gives enough of the backstory.
All right, bringing it back to the board. What's the will and pleasure? David?
Fine here.
Okay,
Yeah.
can I get a motion?
This is Tim. I would move to approve resolution addendum A 2026-018.
Do we have a second? I'll second. Buchanan?
Yeah.
Okay, any additional board member discussion? No further discussion. We'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? Motion passes. Thank you. Lindsay, agenda item number 7, Water Conservation Grant Fund updates.
Thank you, sir. So we do have on the agenda the Water Conservation Grant Fund, as we have had additional deobligations from awarded grants. So we have additional funds available for award through that program. We have on the agenda 4 separate projects that had been tabled previously by the board, totaling just over $1 million for consideration from the board today. If you'd like, I can go through each one individually and just give a brief overview. We have presented these previously, but happy to remind the board what these projects are that have been
And
tabled.
Even
And-
before that too,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, I
Go
want
ahead.
to jump in a little bit with some context of why this is before the board today. So partially it's because you did ask for an update at the last meeting as part of our agenda setting. But also, as we look at this deobligated amount, the time frame is becoming very, very short for our grantees to spend their money. They have about 9 months to do that. And we don't want this money to go to waste. And we wanted to put options before the board in terms of what can we do with not only the amount we know that we have deobligated, but also the small amount we anticipate will deobligate into the future. As Lindsay said, we did send a letter to all grantees who had spent no money by about the middle point of the year. We received responses from all of those grantees. Some of them were plans for, no, we are still going to get this done and here's how. Some of them, like the one that you just saw, said we can get some of it done, but not all of it. And then there were a handful that said we can't do any of it. And that deobligated amount reflects that discussion today. I don't obviously have a preference for how the board determines they want to allocate or use these deobligated funds. There are options before you, however, including these 4 tabled applications, all of whom have given us assurances that were they to be awarded, they would be able to spend the money according to the federal requirements in the time allotted. There's also the opportunity to just say, we don't think we have time, or we don't think that these projects have enough merit to finance. So let's allow this money to go back to the governor's office to reallocate as they see fit. There could be something in between where it's some of the projects, or, you know, you would rather have us come back at a later time and tell you how much we have then. I would ask respectfully that the board just give us clear guidance so that we know what to do. If it's possible to not have to come back to you at a later time, given sort of these short timeframes, that would be great. But if you would rather us come back to you with more information as we receive it or as the obligations come in, we're happy to do that. As long as staff has some level of certainty of this is what we are expected to do, or this is the pleasure of the board in regards to deobligated funds, that's kind of the goal of putting this on the agenda here today. So that's just a little context for why this is before you, why we do have these 4 projects, and what we are hoping to gain out of the discussion.
Thank you, Chelsea. Thank you, Lindsay. I'm going to go over to Ted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a couple of clarifying questions, hopefully clarifying questions, for Chelsea. So given those 2 basic choices, between approving some or all of these today or allowing some or all of the, unawarded funds to go back to the governor's office. Is that process automatic, I should say, or does the legislature get involved at all, given that they're the ones that appropriated these funds to WIFA? That's question number 1. And then question number 2 is, if these funds aren't used at all, either by WIFA or by the governor's office, what happens?
Those are 2 excellent questions, Mr. Cook. So the answer to the first is that no, the legislature would not have involvement in this transfer. Though the legislature did create the Water Conservation Grant Fund, the Water Conservation Grant Fund was funded specifically with ARPA dollars that were allocated and are controlled by the governor's office. So this is something that lies entirely within the purview of the executive. This would not require additional legislative authority or input for the governor's office to reallocate those funds to other ARPA grant contracts. To the second, if not used at all, I think there is some level of uncertainty, but what our understanding is that if we do not use them, and if the governor's office does not have the opportunity to reallocate, this money will revert essentially back to the federal government, saying this is money that the federal government provided to the state. The state was unable to use it, therefore we are giving it back to the original appropriator.
Thank you.
Tim, and then Patrice.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 2 also clarifying questions. One is, do these amounts shown here account for the administrative dollars we just allocated, or did the administrative dollars come from a different pot of money?
Another very good question, and the 1.1 million does account for the administrative costs that we just allocated. And I'm looking to Denise, she is nodding, so yes.
All right, if we had a finance subcommittee, I wouldn't have had to ask that question. I'm just gonna move on now.
Ouch.
And then if there's a potential third option, time might not be working in our favor, but so what we have in front of us are 4 applications not acted on before, but when you look at the subcommittee or the committee votes, they weren't overwhelmingly recommending approval. That does not mean they're not fully qualifying, valid, legitimate projects. It just means they didn't come out with a ringing endorsement. My question is, are there applicants who've been successful that could have scope changes to add dollars and do more good work, such that some of our applicants have already completed their projects, have already done their work? And I know we might have limits of the $3 million per program, et cetera. But what I'm wondering is there an opportunity to allocate some of these dollars through further conversation and scope change to those who've done great work and do more great work?
Yeah, I think that's a good point and a good question. Staff has pondered that a bit since you and I talked about it earlier this week, and we are still hesitant to say yes because we do think the grant statutes are strict enough that we would need to ask those applicants to submit another application. The reason for that would be that the board would need to make a value judgment based on which of those applications is worthy of additional. As you said, there are going to be some objective meters, like have we already given this project or program 3 million or 250,000, have they met that cap? But even for the ones that aren't, that is still a value determination by this board. And we do feel confident that we would need additional documentation. We would need some sort of additional fair competitive process for that to happen. I don't know that there is time for us to do that process.
Okay, I'm just gonna put that in my own words. Of what I'm hearing is applicants who are selected can downscope and reduce money, but not upscope and add money.
That would be correct.
Are you good, Tim?
I don't like the answer, but I
Okay,
have
all
the
right.
answer.
Patrice?
Thank you. And comment and a question. And that is that I think it's important that we do maintain the quality that we have. And quite frankly, the conscientiousness we have looked at for projects. So I'm a little concerned that these did not make it to the top tier for recommendation. Not they're bad projects, but they haven't risen to the level of the quality that we have approved. So my second part is I obviously want to keep the money in Arizona. I think that's important. And so I guess my question is that if for some reason we de-obligated the money and it went back to the governor's office, are they able to utilize that money?
Our understanding is yes. We have met with the governor's office on this topic in particular. They are confident that they would be able to reallocate this money to any number of existing additional ARPA grant contracts. Do we know what those contracts would be? No. Do we have any sort of guarantee or any idea that they would be water or water conservation related? No, but to your point, it would be Arizona making that decision.
So then finishing my comment, then, I think it is important we maintain the quality. I think quite frankly, the legislature and the governor looks at us and looks at the programs that we're funding. And I think that we need to be realistic and honest and straightforward on what we're doing. And if for some reason, not due to our fault, by the way, we did our job, but there's money that is not spent that has come back to us. If we can't use it for the same level of quality that we have, I think we should de-obligate it and bring it back to the governor's office.
Tim with his hand up.
Tim?
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I neglected this comment when I had the mic earlier.
Sorry, I was reading your text saying me again, and then Chelsea said her hand was up.
No problem. Something that just occurred to me may be a terrible idea, but is it possible that if we did not allocate some of these dollars to some of these projects and there was residual, that we ask that it be assigned to the long-term water augmentation fund and be spent under the potential contracts we have coming up, which would probably meet the timeframes, my guess is, and still and would be a small measure of replenishing the fund that got swept.
My answer to that will be, I think we can ask for anything, and we can certainly make that ask if the board directs us to do so.
Patrice?
But is it time sensitive?
June.
Okay. Any more discussion from the board? We have an opportunity to make a motion in any number of different ways.
And if you would like, a refresher on these 4 projects, we have time, we have that available. If that helps the conversation, we're happy to do that.
Sure.
Yes, Ted.
So I appreciate all of the input and the various considerations for each of the options that we have. For me, the comment that rises to the top is the desire to have these funds utilized in Arizona. And I think as a member of this board, that the best opportunity to do that is for us to approve these projects. I agree with the quality discussions, and I've been a vocal critic of some parts of the Water Conservation Grant Fund as far as things like accounting for conservation, where if we conserve water, where is it? That type of thing. But I would really hate us to, I think it's a worse thing to let this money go unused or to commit it to some unknown purpose than for us to complete our work on this program. And so I will move that we approve items 7A through D on the agenda. That's WC 6293-2024, WC 1054-2023, WC 6288-2024, and WC 6298-2024.
Thank you, Ted. We have a motion on the floor.
Yeah,
David.
and I'll make a second to that, and I'll explain it to Patrice in particular. These just didn't quite rise. They weren't bad projects. They just, on our priority list, were the next tiers down, that's all. And so they could have easily been passed. We actually approved some water conservation grant funds that were the committee approved in 4-3 or denied based on certain factors we went through over the past, whatever, year and a half. So I'll make a second to Ted's motion.
Motion a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nay.
We have one
Go ahead and
opposed.
take a roll call vote on that, Mr. Chairman.
All right, roll call vote.
Give me just here. All right. Members, as a reminder, the motion is to approve items 7A through 7D. Mr. Beckham,
Aye.
Mr. Cook,
Aye.
Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Ms. Horstman,
Nay.
Mr. John,
Aye.
Mr. Tomier,
Aye.
Mr. Kim,
Aye.
and Chairman Lyons.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the motion passes.
All right.
I do want to note, however, with that motion, we do still have a small amount of deobligated funds because those projects did not add up to exactly 1.1 point something million. If the board desires, you could give staff, and I think we would appreciate direction on what we do from here with additional deobligated funds, knowing that these were the only 4 applicants before us who were confident of being able to finish their projects. So I will throw that to you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Chelsea. David.
I would say give anything coming back from this point forward, give it back to the governor.
Okay.
Frankly, we're getting to the late end of this to have anything implemented by June anyway. And that goes toward Patrice's comment. We don't want to scrape the bottom of the barrel on new projects. That's not our goal either. So
Would you put that in the form of a motion, please?
do I need a motion on that?
Yeah.
Okay, I move that any further water conservation grant funds that come back to us because applicants can't perform be given right back to the governor's office.
I'd second that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion from the board?
Just for clarification, that motion would include the unobligated funds from today. that were not-
That motion includes the unobligated funds from today.
And all future.
After
And
the
all
approval,
future.
after the approval of these.
Got it.
Yes.
And all futures, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? After clarification from Council Joe Sotelo. If none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? Thank you. Did somebody say something? Okay, motion carries. All right, agenda item number 8, call to the public. This is a time for any additional public comments. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Have we received any requests for public comment?
We have one request to speak from Ben Strychek, Phoenix Christian Unified Schools.
All right, Ben. Yes,
Yeah,
please.
Can we make sure he has a microphone if somebody? Okay, good.
It is up there.
We need to make sure it's on. Testing, first one of the day.
Testing.
There
we
you go.
All right.
3 minutes, Ben.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for letting me speak today. I spoke to you guys in the initial round of this voting for these projects. My name is Ben Stryzik. I'm the athletic director and basketball coach over at Phoenix Christian right down the road. It's been there for 76 years. Last year, I spearheaded a grant with the NFL to get a new turf field for us in hopes of saving some money. We're spending about $60,000 a year just watering that field alone, about 2.4 million gallons of water. As you guys know, we were denied in our application. Some of the things you've talked about, we're worried about the bandwidth of our grants with the NFL running out. So we were just seeing if there was any deobligated funds that potentially we could utilize to finish our project. We serve, and I didn't want to interrupt you, Mr. Beckham, as you were talking there, but I was thinking I should have talked during agenda item 7, not 8. But in any event, we just serve a lot of inner city kids. Our average household income is about $32,000 for our students. A lot of the Maryville, Alhambra community also utilizes our field. So it's not just our kids, like the Phoenix Eagles is a soccer organization I've let use our field for free. They have a ton of refugees. Our fields turns into 100 yards of dirt pretty quickly. So I've had to tell them until this turf comes to fruition, we need to limit their time in there, but there's just countless organizations like them that we are serving. And then ultimately, obviously the water saving component as Christians, that's really important to us to steward our resources. And it breaks my heart to be spending that money every year to play a homecoming football game on 100 yards of dirt at the end of the season after spending $60,000 that we really don't have to water. So my question to you guys was just about the augmented or the de-obligated funds. I think I'm a little late for that, it sounds like, but if that 25 million gets awarded, we'll obviously come back and give it another swing. But if there is any opportunity to capture any remaining de-obligated funds, we have over half the money currently raised, and we are extremely confident we'll get this done. But we're over the halfway point, but we just don't want to turn back now, and any help would be extremely appreciated by us. So thank you guys for all you do. Really grateful for all the work you guys do for our city. God bless.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. David?
Where were you 10 minutes ago? I don't know what to say. Well, you know, I'm looking at Joe Zatelli. I don't know if we can help him or not.
It's so a public comment there, you're restricted in the things that you can do, especially without being agendized for it, but you could certainly direct staff to further investigate and report back to the board and do a further agenda item if there is any action that can be taken.
Do I need to make a motion?
No, you do have agenda item 9 coming up, agenda development, and could certainly raise it there if you'd like to.
Raise it there.
And we just happened to be on agenda item number 9.
Look at
David.
that.
Okay. If we get further money, and I would like the staff to look into this item.
Absolutely. Happy to do that, Mr. Beckham.
Thank you, David.
Other than that, I don't think I've heard anything affirmative from the board in terms of agenda items for the next meeting. We will continue to look at the finance non-subcommittee as we go forward and continue to have that discussion and ensure that we are giving you all the opportunities that you need to do deep dives where the deep dives are warranted. We have Tim with his hand up.
Tim?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I hate to be that guy, but with regard to the item that staff are being asked to look at to bring back a potential options, if any, for an applicant that was denied who is seeking funding. There are many applicants that were denied. And so I think if they're going to do that for one, they should do that for all.
Fair enough.
Thank you, Tim. Are there any additional items to be placed on the agenda? All right, agenda item number 10, Wednesday, October 15, 2025, 9 a.m. will be our next meeting, unless modified, and it is now 9:50 and the meeting is adjourned.
Lightning speed today.
Yes.
Thank you. And board members, or those of you who are on the Long-Term Augmentation Committee, we will convene that at 11 or thereabouts here in this room. Feel free to use our offices, boardroom, anything that you need in the meantime. Thank you all. Thank you.